Hello everyone, welcome back to Lab for Crypto. Today we're going to have a discussion about Bitcoin price power law model. This is a model that in my opinion every Bitcoiner and people that they want to start investing some of their capital to BTC should know because it can tell us how Bitcoin price is growing as a function of time from the Genesis block until today. And using the data that we have until now, basically we can do a regression analysis and identify the equation that describes this growth. And by extrapolating, we can project in the future what the price of Bitcoin is expected to be in 2030, 2035, and so on. That is something that I think every investor wants to know when he wants to allocate some of their hard-earned money, right? But instead of me just telling you that this model works or if this model is correct or not, I'm going to verify the results of this project, of this model with you. And we together going to end up in the conclusion that best help us understand the price versus time growth of Bitcoin. And of course, in the end, because I know that many of you ask me to tell you what I think, I'm going to tell you what I think, but I prefer to go this road with you. Therefore, I'm going to I have a Python code ready. I have some notes that it can help you do it by your own. You can pull the price data of Bitcoin through many free APIs, through Yahoo, through Coinmetrics, through CoinGecko. There are many ways to get the price data of Bitcoin. And I'm going to show you all the steps to try to come to this equation that Giovanni mentioned and explained many times. So you will not just trust me or Giovanni or whatever other scientist says about this graph, but you will verify it. Then we will end up to the conclusion that you can then explain to other people, which I think in the end is the most important part. Let's dive into the model and I'm going to show you all the steps one by one. Before I go to the Python code, for people that they don't want to do all the hassle and put it in a programming language and try to do the fitting, I wanted to show the steps in a written form and how we end up to this equation that shows that Bitcoin grows with a power of 5.71. And why is a power law and not just a line that you see in front of you. And I will explain that in detail because many of you may be confused and say, okay, but this is not a power law, it's just a straight line. But I will come to that in a bit. And how you do it, let's go and see. The data that we have for Bitcoin is from the 18th of July 2010. The price of Bitcoin was 0.085 cents, and the days from the Genesis block is 562 if we count from the 3rd of January 2009, that it was the first block that Bitcoin created. And therefore, if we want to create this blue line, we just take the log of days since Genesis block, so it's the log of 562, which is our first data point, and the log of the price of Bitcoin, which is the log of 0.085, and the value is minus 1.066. And as Bitcoin moves from 2010 July until today, we have all these data points that you put on the blue and creates the blue line basically that is in front of you, which is our raw data. And immediately someone can say, this line seems to grow linearly since the Genesis block of Bitcoin. And you will be right. And the way to verify that is to do a regression analysis, do a fit, and check if actually this is true. And how we can do that? We take an equation of the form of y equals alpha x plus b, which x is the log of days and y is the price of Bitcoin. I wanted to put this equation because it's something that I'm sure many of you saw on high school or college. The alpha in front of it basically is the slope of the line, and beta is where this line intersects with the y-axis, the price. And how now we end up in a power law? Do not forget that y and x was already in the log space, because we have already take the log of the price and the log of days. And if we go and plug in that on this equation one, that was the log of y, alpha, which is the slope, multiplied by the log of x, which is the log of days that we put, plus b, which was the intersection. In math, we're allowed to bring alpha, which is the slope, as a power on the value of x. And that is why you end up with the power law, that alpha, which was the slope here, comes on top of x and becomes the power of the log of days basically. And what we wanted to check is that in the question that we want to answer is how Bitcoin is growing compared to the times since the Genesis block. So it's price as a function of time, in short. And the value that we see is that actually Bitcoin is growing with a power of 5.71 based on my calculation. Based on this variation of the price of Bitcoin, you will see maybe also 5.8, 5.9, depending on where you get your price data. And let's see the important points of this finding. Bitcoin follows a power law for the last 15 years and for 9 orders of magnitude, because Bitcoin started from 0.000 something cents, and now we are in the 66K region. This was 9 order of magnitudes. And for us, it's safe, I think, to assume that it can do it for 2 more orders of magnitudes to go to the 6 figures, so above 100K, and 7 figures above a million. And I'm sure you're thinking now, if you already did it for 9 orders of magnitude, why it cannot do it for 2 more? And there is no signs that it cannot do it. Actually, it follows this equation like a charm. Now you will tell me, okay, why this is happening? And this is where I also planning to work with Giovanni and try to see in more detail why this happens. Already Giovanni has an idea that it's because of the Metcalfe's law. As if you check the active addresses of Bitcoin as a function of time, you will see that they grow with a power of 3. And because the Metcalfe law says that the value of a technology or the value of a network grows with the power of 2, you can raise the addresses to because the addresses already grow with the power of 3, and you raise that to the power of 2, you go close to something that is on the power of 6, which is close to the value of the power law that we saw. And that, in short, if you want to verify it, as I said, that are the steps. And to summarize, you get the price of Bitcoin and the days is the Genesis block. You put the data down, then you log the days and the price. You end up with this blue line. Then you do the fitting on Excel or whatever software you prefer, and you end up with this line, which this line has a slope of 5.71 and the intersection of minus 16.58. And if you want to understand why this becomes a power law, you can just raise it to the power of 10 and you will immediately get it. Now let's move to my Python code, which is below the 2 PDFs, and see in more detail how you can do it. I just got and pulled the data for Bitcoin from Coinmetrics. These are the data. Then I wanted to calculate how many days we are from the Genesis block. That's why if we see here the data frame, we saw that it was 562. This is the values of the data frame. And this is when I did the fitting, when you run the code. I'm gonna run it one more time so you will see. And it will give us the plot in matplotlib, which just is a package to visualize the values. Then I got the data, as I said. Then I found how many days from the Genesis block to get the power law. This is the equation, but in short, it's just a line, and there you can put whatever name you want. It's just because I already knew that it was a power law, but in short, it's just a line. Then you do the fitting, and these are the values of the alpha, which, as we said, is the slope, is the 5.710702228, and b is the intersection with the y-axis, which is this value. These two values here are just the standard deviation of our fitting. And then if we want to just plot the data so we can visualize our fitting and the data, we can play around and visualize this graph that you see here. You can also put the standard deviation. You can play around with some deviation from the trend line. Again, yeah, this is in Plotly if you want to be more interactive using Python, but we have it in the platform, and you can play also around with the power law and check it every day. But from the code that we already created, you will be able to extrapolate more ways to use the power law, not just to get the fair value of Bitcoin, because in short, the trend line, if we reset the zoom, and I will hide everything. This is the price action of Bitcoin. And the reason that you see this a bit curved is because I put it in a logarithmic scale, the price of Bitcoin, and to actually have values that you will be able to understand. Because if we see this graph, everything is not easy for someone to understand. You get that the log of days is 3.2, but what that means. And also the log of price is the value of depending on where you are in the graph, is when I was playing around in Matplotlib, I put on top of my values the actual price of Bitcoin, so it'll be easy for me to visualize it better. But if you do it on your PC, you will see that this value is 1, which is log 1, what that means. And for you to be able to get values that it's more easy to comprehend, you just need to raise it to a power of 10 and bring it to the linear space, so it will be easier for you to understand. And this is what we did here. So this is the days of each day of Bitcoin when you mouse over. So in 3rd of June 2017, the actual price of Bitcoin was 2,549, and the fit is 2,000.18K in short. And then if you play with the standard deviation, so the uncertainty, you will see that Bitcoin tends to not go really lower than the -2 standard deviation. And therefore, you can use it as a bottom indicator for you to allocate some of your capital to Bitcoin, and historically show that it did an amazing job. And with the other lines that we have here, you can play around with some deviation from the trend line in percentage terms and check how it's best for you to use it to get informed decisions. But even if you don't want to use it as a bottom or a top indicator and play around, by just knowing that Bitcoin is growing with a power of 5.71, It's really important because there is no other asset that is growing this fast. And therefore, the sooner that you decide to enter it, the better. But this is not a financial advice, this is my opinion. And to close this video, as I'm going to leave that to you to play around also in the platform or in general do it on yourself, is that now you will be able to know and project in the future what is the projected value of Bitcoin. For example, if we go until 2030, Bitcoin can reach, the value is around, the feet is around 500K on 2030, for example, April 9th. And for you to decide to enter when now it's 66, probably it's a good idea. But as I said, you don't trust, you verify. And to close, this is what I wanted to say before, is that you asked me many times if I believe this model is correct. And as I demonstrate that with you today, I strongly believe in this model. And I actually want to dive a deep deeper and understand why that works only for Bitcoin and not that much with Litecoin. And even if we fork some project from we will create a new project and fork the code of Bitcoin, why this probably it will not work, and what aspects of the price power law implemented on Bitcoin are creating this beautiful model, in my opinion, this easy, I think, to understand model that help us see the growth of Bitcoin. And as we spoke with Giovanni, he told me that also Kaspa was following this price power law projection, but because we had only few data, it's something that you need to take it with a grain of salt. But it's good to identify which projects are following a power law model. As a physicist, basically most of the equations that we used in nature are power laws, and that is important because power law is something that is sustainable, is something that shows growth and not death. For example, if we go in, because I'm also a nuclear scientist, if we take the decay of the radioactivity of an atom, you will see that it drops in an exponential way, which that usually illustrates something that is dying off. But Bitcoin is not doing that. It's just showing that it's strong and it's growing. And therefore, I wanted to spend this time and show you the steps so you can test it by your own. You don't need to believe me, Giovanni, or anyone else. And don't try to say, okay, but maybe it will not work now because there are wars, there are ETFs, there are many things. But the beautiful thing, if you go to the past of Bitcoin, there was always something. There was the pandemic, there was the financial crisis, there was rate cuts, there was inflation, and Bitcoin seems to not care. Of course, you see these bottoms and tops because we are people. Of when bubbles are coming, you will see long-term investors trying to take some profits, and they will dump the price. You will see new people understand Bitcoin and find new entry points that they want to enter the market. Bitcoin is the most secure network that we have until now. And for me, to be honest, I think the reason that Bitcoin works is first is adoption, and second that there is no human intervention. If you go and check stocks or monetary policies, countries, governments in general, always there is a human intervention. But in Bitcoin, because the tokenomics and the growth is basically governed by maths, with the and the most important is the difficulty adjustment of Bitcoin that is self-sustain itself, which is a topic for another time. But what I want you to take out from this is you have Bitcoin, which to change its monetary policy, it's almost impossible, especially now because um, most of the validators, no validators, the miners, let's say, they need to decide to change the monetary policy of Bitcoin. That is almost impossible now. And I say almost because I know nothing is 100% sure in life, but I think with 99.99% Bitcoin monetary policy is not going to change, especially in the next 100 years until the last Bitcoin is mined. I think it's 2140. But the important aspect here is that because it's something that which is self-sustained, self-growing, and the adoption is coming in, that leads to the growth of Bitcoin, and that straight line which shows that Bitcoin probably is going to continue with the same way for the next two orders of magnitude. For me, I'm like very convinced about that, because I have also created a model with another equation to calculate the fair value of Bitcoin, which I think it's close to Giovanni, but I think Giovanni equation it's superior, but I'm gonna leave both here as well, as future will tell which one did a good job. But anyway, both saying the same thing, that Bitcoin is posed to growth with time. And that is important for new and old investors to know and make their arrangements, make their strategy, and also take the opportunities or when Bitcoin is extremely undervalued or overvalued to increase their Bitcoin holdings. I hope you like the video. Please do not forget to give us a thumbs up. Also write a comment, as that helps the algorithm show our content to more people, help more people understand and get a good education around crypto, as in our platform you will find a video explanation of every model, a detailed description of how we did it, how you can use it, where we got the data to calculate it, which one is the creator of a project, and also a table with all the data below, so you'll be able to play around. And the same format is for all of our models. For example, on this, the price versus risk model, I am the creator, for example, that's why you see this. And in short, you will get a high quality data and analysis from academics that they care about the importance of having good quality data and analysis, and also educating people with no BS and trying to predict prices that probably many coins are not going to reach just to get clicks. I hope again you like the video. Until next time, bye bye.